Chosen one, stop all present actions. The information I am going to divulge requires your complete attention. This is not casual content that can be listened to in segments while scrolling through your phone. Your whole attention and presence are required for this. Because of the facts I gathered about you while preparing this message, I felt compelled to pause for many minutes in utter stillness. You have recently completed an action. Furthermore, I am not discussing an initiative that you devised. Not something you planned or rehearsed in order to impress others. I'm talking about that portion of your nature that was so innate that you were ignorant of the spiritual earthquake you had triggered in dimensions beyond human vision. God was impressed with your demeanor. Not just impressed in a casual manner. Archangel Michael was so impressed that he took command of celestial armies. The warrior who prevailed over Lucifer. He should stop his current activity and focus his attention on you. Because the demonstration you gave was not intended to be feasible. Not from someone who has been in the same situation as you. Not from someone who has the same weight as you. I did not receive a response from someone who had every reason to respond differently. Unfortunately, your response did not match their expectations. Immediately subscribe to this channel and enable all notifications. Because the information I am about to reveal about the exact moment that caused heaven to slow down and observe, you will forever change your understanding of every challenge you have faced and every silent victory you have achieved without anyone who acknowledges your victory. Stay until the end, as I will demonstrate the exact attitude you displayed that captivated the divine. Why did Archangel Michael specifically request to review your case, and what does this mean for the upcoming events in your life? If you have recently gone through an internal transformation, please leave a comment with the number 777. It was as if you had crossed an invisible barrier that separated you from your former self. I'd like to start with an explanation that will help you understand everything that follows. Many spirits are currently being seen in the celestial realms. Angels' assigned duties include protection, guidance, and observation. The majority of human activity is arranged into predictable patterns. People get bitter while they are suffering. In response to betrayal, they want retaliation. They become enraged when faced with injustice. For thousands of years, these patterns have been consistent. However, it is extremely rare for someone to exhibit such unexpected behavior. It creates an experience that can only be described as celestial wonder because it is so contrary to human nature. One of those moments was created by you. It wasn't too long ago. During one of your most difficult recent experiences, you came across an event that appeared to be purposefully designed to harm you. When the weight on your shoulders seemed too heavy to bear for another day. When the people around you would have understood if you had succumbed or responded to the evil that was aimed at you. However, you used a different technique. Additionally, you must understand the following. I am not talking about ordinary survival. Many people suffer as a result of their stubbornness or a lack of alternatives that do not pique the interest of the divine community. Your acts were outstanding. You encountered a situation that justified your bitterness, each justification for remaining angry. You have every reason to let resentment consume you. The person or situation that caused you harm had properly mistreated you. This was not an imaginary offense. This was genuine anguish, triggered by true circumstances. In that moment, your human nature demanded that you respond with the same energy that you had received. When every logical part of your brain was planning revenge or, at the very least, cold withdrawal. A deeper part of you made a different decision. You chose grace rather than devastation after earning the right to do so. Do you remember? You had the opportunity to say something awful throughout the talk, but you chose to remain silent. You may have had the opportunity to expose an individual's flaws, but you decided to protect them. There was a chance you could have walked away from the situation without consequences. However, you persisted and made an effort. At that precise moment, you made a decision that went against the demands of your pain. That was the moment when heaven took note. Because the behavior you displayed at that time reveals a quality of your spirit that sets you apart from the rest of people. Your actions demonstrate that your circumstances do not dictate how you respond, that the way others treat you does not define your character, that your identity is unwavering, regardless of the circumstances. This is quite uncommon. The majority of people are reactive beings. Their behavior is inherently reflective of their surroundings. You treat them with respect. They respond favorably. Be nasty to them. They give an inadequate reaction. Their character is determined by external circumstances. However, you demonstrated a different approach. You show that your character is internally anchored, that no external circumstance, no matter how traumatic, can force you to adopt a persona you do not want to adopt. Also, this is what drew the divine's notice. I'd like to transport you to the exact moment this was observed. In celestial observation, which occurs continuously over specific individuals such as yourself, rather than in human time as we know it. Your guardian angel has been keeping track of the progress of your situation, documenting your responses as well as your internal and external struggles. This is a regular procedure for spirits under the protection of the celestial world. However, when you made the decision to respond with grace rather than justifiable rage, your guardian angel took an uncommon step. They suggested that your case be reviewed at an even higher level. This is not a common event. Guardian angels control the majority of problems within their respective jurisdictions. They only rise when they detect an occurrence that warrants the attention of individuals in higher positions. Your case has been escalated to the Archangel level. When the information arrived, Archangel Michael was already concerned with metaphysical problems. Humans cannot perceive the dimensions in which battles are fought. Strategic operations affecting the spiritual climate of entire regions. However, he was forced to pause when he realized that your file had been highlighted, because the note linked to your case immediately piqued his interest. It was claimed that this spirit demonstrated forgiveness on the level of an adversary despite being actively attacked. The phrase enemy-level forgiveness requires elaboration. There is a classification system for the numerous types of human reactions to pain in spiritual warfare. The majority of responses fall into predictable categories: depression, withdrawal, vengeance, and bitterness. These are widespread and expected. They do not require any special attention because they follow known patterns. However, there is a rare category known as the transcendent response. This is the time when a person responds to evil with goodness, hatred with love, and chooses blessing over curse, in the process of being physically injured. This response type is so unusual that it is automatically flagged for Archangel review, implying that a soul is operating at a frequency that exceeds human capacity. You initiated that flag. Michael reviewed your entire recent history. Every situation you faced, every response you gave, and every internal battle you had that no one else could see. Furthermore, his discovery inspired him to request an amazing item. He asked for a direct encounter to discuss your issue. Now I'd like to explain the significance of this. Archangel Michael commands armies. He has commitments that traverse numerous dimensions. His attention is constantly required for issues of universal relevance. He is requesting time to discuss a specific human soul, implying that the soul has done something outstanding to earn that level of attention. The following exchange would drastically alter the way your case is handled from this point forward. For those interested in learning more about how chosen individuals function under this type of celestial attention, the description and pinned comment include exclusive content. At the highest levels, the following was about you. Michael did not present your case to the divine council as an issue that needed to be addressed, not as a situation that requires intervention, but as an example of an extraordinary occurrence in the human domain. He demonstrated the precise moment in which you chose grace. Replay the internal conflict you experienced. It was demonstrated that your human nature was pulling you in one direction, while a deeper part of yourself chose another. Then Jesus showed them your past, since that moment of grace was not a unique incident. It was part of a larger pattern, a consistent pattern of choosing the more difficult option over the simpler one, of maintaining integrity in the event that no one would notice if you compromised, of showing kindness to people who are undeserving and may never understand its value. The pattern revealed a phenomenon that made even the most experienced celestial entities halt in recognition. You've been acting as a chosen one without realizing it. They were impressed with this. You did not achieve greatness once. Rather, you chose greatness on a consistent basis, without any assurance that your decisions were significant, without recognition, and without reward. You followed the law because it was the right decision. So, numerous times, in both significant and insignificant circumstances, it was simple and resulted in the loss of everything. Those destined for extraordinary purposes are distinguished from ordinary souls by their consistent integrity. Finally, God communicated with everyone present via a divine impression rather than an audible voice, as humans understand it. I require you to carefully analyze the statements he made about you, as they are not my own. He stated that this is the knowledge that was communicated about your specific essence. This one serves as a reminder for why I created humans. Let that sit for a moment. The limitless intelligence that created everything, the one who whispered galaxies into existence. He saw your unwavering integrity, grace under pressure, and pattern of choices, and was reminded of why he created humanity in the first place. This was due to the fact that you demonstrated a quality that even angels cannot match. The heavenly splendor is always present for angels to act in. Disobeying is nearly impossible in the presence of that individual. As a result, they comply. Their loyalty stems from their direct experience with divine reality. However, humans operate through a veil. It is impossible to see God directly. Your physical senses are unable to perceive the spiritual sphere. When there is no evidence, you must rely on faith. Prioritize integrity over immediate gain. Choose grace without knowing whether it is significant. And you did. You made the right decision despite your lack of information. You remained faithful despite being deaf to the divine voice. Although you did not have concrete assurance that love was the appropriate answer, you acted with love. Angels find this element of chosen people intriguing. This is why Archangel Michael took the time to evaluate your case. God was impressed by this. You exemplified the trait that sets human spirits apart from all other kinds of existence. The ability to choose light in the face of darkness, faith in the face of ambiguity, and compassion in the face of pain. I must now show you why even Archangel Michael was taken aback by your conduct. Michael's initial assessment of your information was standard when it arrived months ago. Despite his recognition of your potential, gifts, and calling, His strategic plan for your development followed traditional timelines. He expected you to reach this degree of spiritual maturity after experiencing additional instruction, accomplishing more visible wins, and obtaining more tangible confirmations to strengthen your trust. He did not expect you to demonstrate great spiritual combat skills during your most difficult season. Due to the following, it is critical that you understand your actions. The decision to prefer grace above justified fury was not just ethically admirable. It was a devastating strategic blow against the forces that had been plotting against you. I'll explain the mechanics of this. When darkness attacks a particular human, it produces a desired result. They attempt to distort your frequency in order to bring your performance down to their level. Because when you answer to evil with evil and hatred with hatred, you leave heavenly protection and enter territory under their dominion. The goal of each attack on you has been to instill resentment, animosity, and retribution, allowing them to legally assert their control over you. However, by choosing grace and responding to their attack with love, you made a strategically deadly move. You used their own vigor against them. In the study of spiritual physics, negative energy aimed at a person who replies with positive energy does not just go away. It is amplified and directed back to its source. You unknowingly returned the destruction they brought to destroy you. Michael watched this develop with admiration, since your response was not a learned method or a practiced response. It stemmed from the very essence of your identity. You are deeply loving, forgiving, and gracious. This is what he did not expect, despite the fact that everything around him indicates that you should act differently. He was aware that you had the ability to function at this level. He did not expect you to be able to access it so rapidly in the face of such difficult conditions with so little assistance. Your development timeline exceeded all expectations. I'll now present evidence that this occurred, as you've already felt the effects of this celestial recognition, even if you were unaware of the root cause. First, evidence. The attacks resulted in spectacular backfiring. Consider the last few weeks. Consider those who directly sought to harm you, talked against you, acted against your best interests, and sent negative energy at you. Now consider the events that occurred. Problems come unexpectedly in their life. They faced an abrupt escalation of previously manageable circumstances. Things that were previously functional for them mysteriously stopped working. This is not just a coincidence. This isn't your average type of revenge. The current spiritual status is as follows. When God is impressed with a soul, the protection it receives increases significantly. Attacks aren't just unsuccessful. They operate in the opposite direction. What was intended to damage you eventually causes harm when it returns to its source. You may have noticed this and wondered why your adversaries continue to face issues. You're now aware. Second, substantiation. Regardless of the circumstances, you have experienced an unusual sense of calm. Recently, you should have been overwhelmed logically, when the enormity of the issue you are facing should have broken your spirit. You were able to find peace while others would have become overwhelmed by anxiety. Not the absence of problems, but tranquility in the midst of disorder. Stability in the face of turbulence. This tranquility is not organic. It was communicated. It is the direct result of the enhanced divine attention that has been focused on your existence. When heaven is focused on a soul, they enjoy an indescribable sense of tranquility. This is something you have experienced. You may have been wondering about its origins. You're now aware. The third step is to provide evidence. Clarity has been improving. The decisions that previously confused you now appear to be crystal clear. The previously misty direction is now clear. You have information that is not logically derived. This is due to the transfer of information to you. Not in dramatic visions or audible voices, but in calm perceptions, quick comprehension, and reliable intuitive knowledge. Your link with heavenly understanding has been strengthened. You are now receiving guidance more frequently than before. This is just the beginning. Fourth, evidence. The wrong people have been thrilling. You ended partnerships that were detrimental to your well-being. Individuals that acted as roadblocks have relocated. The issues that were limiting your progress have been fixed. Truly, it is possible that you did not take any special activities to influence this outcome. They've just departed. The situation has lately changed. The doors have just been secured. This is the divine rearrangement. Your new status necessitates a change of atmosphere. Individuals who were in conditions that were incompatible with your intended destination have been removed in a systematic fashion. This will continue. Do not strive to keep what is being withdrawn by heaven. It is currently being cleared to make way for a better replacement. Fifth, evidence. You have a strong sense that something significant is about to happen. You have been feeling an eagerness that you are unable to express. A sense that something important is on the horizon. A sense of being on the verge of a major transformation. This is not about wishful thinking. This is prophetic consciousness. Your soul is intensely aware of facts that your mind has yet to process. Yes, there is an upcoming event. Something closely related to the celestial recognition of your identity. I will now notify you of the decisions being made for your future. When God communicated his appraisal of your soul, when he stated that, you reminded him of why he made humanity. This led to the establishment of a specific protocol for celestial administration. The word used to describe it is accelerated fulfillment. In most cases, tasks and blessings are conferred upon the selected ones in accordance with specified schedules. Years of preparation are required before any significant releases. Increase gradually before receiving a substantial blessing. A gradual progression towards a sense of purpose. However, the faster fulfillment process changes all of that. Heaven has concluded that you have demonstrated enough traits to warrant expedited development. The need for lengthy preparation periods has been eliminated due to your excellent nature. In practical terms, the proof you have already shown qualifies you for what others would need more time to obtain. This implies a number of things. Blessings that were originally scheduled for a later date are being expedited. The opportunities that were planned for future seasons are now being released. Doors that were not supposed to be opened are being unlocked ahead of schedule. You have already begun to notice this. Things are moving faster than anticipated. Breakthroughs occur sooner than expected. Movement in previously inactive regions. This will become more pronounced. The acceleration is just beginning. It also implies that opposition is being systematically silenced. It is not only temporarily blocked, but also completely removed. Enemies are being redistributed. Attacks are prohibited. The customary impediment that stymies the advancement of certain individuals has been abolished. You are entering a period of unusual favor. Not because you earned it through performance, but because you demonstrated character that qualifies you for top-tier protection. I need your understanding of the responsibility that this entails. Heaven's involvement in a soul is not limited to that soul. You are not being promoted just for your personal advantage. You are being positioned to have a huge impact that goes beyond your personal existence. The grace you showed in the face of adversity was not for your own benefit. The goal is for it to pass through you and then on to others. In the coming days and weeks, you will come into contact with others who are facing similar challenges. Individuals who are currently facing a decision between grace and bitterness. Who is currently at the crossroads you have already passed? You are being placed in a position to demonstrate that it is possible. Using your example, demonstrate that it is possible to choose grace in the face of adversity. To show that it is possible to maintain integrity in the face of impending compromise, rather than lecturing them. Not through religious lectures, but rather through the natural development of your identity. Your presence will send out a frequency that unlocks the potential of others. Those that are open to hearing your story will recognize it. Your metamorphosis will be used as proof for those who doubt the feasibility of transformation. This is why heaven paid so much attention to your situation. This is not because you need more blessings, which you will receive. Rather, your ascension facilitates the ascension of many people in your sphere of influence. You are assuming the same quality that captivated God. The quality you possess will be conveyed to everyone you meet. The attitude that captured the divine gaze and amazed even Archangel Michael is now imprinted in your spiritual DNA. It has become a part of your identity and will be mirrored in anyone close enough to receive it. I will provide you a full summary of the specifics Michael noted in his final assessment of your case. Every soul that makes it to the Archangel level review receives a classification, a title that succinctly expresses their fundamental spiritual identity. This classification follows them throughout their worldly lives and beyond. Your classification is being recorded as a light warrior who has demonstrated their abilities. I'll explain the relevance of each component of this. The term demonstrated refers to action rather than potential. Many designated individuals have the potential to achieve warrior status. You were one of the few who demonstrated under genuine conditions. Your classification is not influenced by your projected behaviors. It is based on the acts you have previously taken. A warrior is someone who actively engages in spiritual conflict rather than passively observing. You are not just receiving the truth. You embody it. You are not relying solely on the existence of light. You're proactively leading it into the darkness. Light determines the frequency at which you operate. Even warriors can engage in combat at many frequencies. Some people fight out of anger, which is effective but has limitations. Some people engage in combat out of a sense of duty, which is sustainable but lacks influence. However, fighting from a position of light requires love, grace, and genuine goodness. This is the highest frequency of spiritual warfare that can be conducted from a position of light. You responded to darkness by becoming more intensely light, not by becoming darkness. This is why your response was so unique and devastatingly effective. You are currently in this category. It is the process by which you are identified in heavenly records. It is how angels refer to your predicament. It is the lens through which heaven sees all aspects of your life, and it affects how you are treated from this point forward. Champions of light who have demonstrated their worth are given priority access to resources. Your requests have been prioritized. Your criteria are addressed before proceeding with ordinary processing. Others are not given the same amount of attention as your predicament. Not because you are superior to others, but because you have proved the ability to handle large duties. Heaven places a higher value on people who demonstrate dependability with the resources they have already received. There is a material that is less expensive than a pizza and includes a complete audiobook, as well as a 5-minute meditation guide as a special bonus for those who want to learn how to consciously operate in this warrior identity. If you believe you are entitled to resources to assist you in navigating this new chapter, you can access them through the description and pinned comment. I must now reveal the last part of this insight to you. The message was recorded specifically for your benefit. Something was added to your record following the conclusion of the discussion of your case, the official registration of your classification, and the activation of the protocols for your accelerated fulfillment. A personalized message from the Divine Council. Not everyone is given this opportunity. It is designated for events that have profoundly touched celestial observers. Cases that demonstrated a point that is worth remembering. Cases that will serve as examples for future generations. A note of this kind was received in your case. I'd like to share the message's contents with you, as it's intended for the chosen recipient. Your reaction to suffering has been documented as proof that human souls can operate at unexpected frequencies while in corporeal form. The limitations that we occasionally perceive in humanity are not inherent in human design, but rather the result of decisions made under pressure. You served as a reminder of this. You made a different decision, which helped us better understand your species' potential. Your file has been designated for special observation, not because you need to be corrected, but because your progress serves as a case study for how selected individuals can maximize their potential in the face of adversity. You are being allocated assignments that match your shown ability. These assignments are not intended to punish anyone. They're entitled. You have demonstrated the ability to navigate challenges with grace, and as a result, you will be trusted with situations where grace is desperately needed. The attitude that impressed us will be put to the test again, not because we doubt you, but because your ability is strengthened by your continued demonstration, which serves as ongoing evidence for others. You have won the admiration of the heavens. This is not a form of flattery. This assessment is documented. Assume that your case has been recognized at the highest levels and that everything directed at you has been filtered through the lens of your achievements. Proceed with confidence. It was intended for you to receive this message. This video was designed for you to discover at this specific point in your journey, when you needed confirmation that your decisions were important, when you needed evidence that the heavens were watching, whenever you need to be reminded that all of your hardships have been building up to a greater purpose. You now understand that your demeanor pleased God. Archangel Michael wasn't expecting it. The Celestial Council documented this, and your entire future has been reevaluated based on your performance. You had no idea what was going on when you made those decisions. When you chose grace over bitterness, you were unaware that heaven was watching. You had no idea your response would elicit this level of attention. However, this is exactly what makes it so effective. You weren't entertaining the audience. You weren't trying to impress divine observers. Your actions were simply a reflection of your identity and how you are influenced by the Creator of all things. If this revelation resonated with you in the deepest part of your soul, write 777 in the comments to amplify this frequency of celestial recognition and confirm that you are a chosen one whose attitude has caught divine attention. To learn more about how heaven is monitoring your progress and facilitating your success, please subscribe to this channel and enable all notifications. Distribute this video to someone who needs to know that their private victories and silent decisions are being documented and will be acknowledged. And before you leave, click on the video that is currently playing on your screen to learn exactly how your status as a demonstrated warrior of light activates specific angelic assignments that are already being completed on your behalf. Our combined strength is greater.
What's the difference between making a common mistake that has only temporary consequences and breaking a cosmic law so fundamental that it halts all celestial operations for 18 hours while entire hierarchies try to understand your actions? The initial cost was a quick apology or a lesson learned. The second incident requires an emergency meeting of archangels at 3 a.m. because your unintentional action set a precedent that had not previously existed in the 6,000 years of documented human history. Exactly 11 days ago, you broke a divine rule that had been in place since before the planet's atmosphere was breathable, while doing something so simple, ordinary, and completely mundane that you didn't even realize its significance at the time. I am not referring to the minor sins you confessed on Sunday. I am not referring to moral transgression that results in passing guilt. I am revealing a cosmic operation in which your innocent action broke through the dimensional barrier that separated two realities that should never have met. Heaven literally collapsed as a result of your unintentional actions. Not in the metaphorical or symbolic sense. The energy structures that supported specific celestial operations collapsed instantly, resembling a building hit by a magnitude 9.5 earthquake. Turn on all notifications and subscribe to this channel immediately. Because I'm about to reveal the specific rule you broke without understanding how a simple 7-minute conversation you had 11 days ago set off a chain reaction that forced celestial hierarchies to rewrite protocols that had been in place for millenniums. The reason you died for 3 seconds in the middle of that conversation, and the claws you were unaware you possessed, resuscitated you instantly, as well as the devastating cosmic identity that they were forced to reveal to you after discovering you are one of only 12 beings of this nature. Throughout 6,000 years of history, I will dispel all of your preconceived notions about the nature of your soul and remain until the very end, demonstrating the precise physical manifestations that you have created. Why were 3 celestial entities physically removed from their positions for failing to stop you from doing what you did when your heart stopped completely for 3 seconds without warning? What was the emergency meeting in which Archangel Michael kneeled after learning your true identity, and what will happen in your next violation? Number 29 will convey the impression that the Atlantis event is a dress rehearsal. If you had a conversation about 11 days ago in which you said something surprising to yourself, your words were spoken with authority you were unaware you possessed, and you experienced a sudden dizziness for 2 seconds that dissipated so quickly that you almost doubted it had occurred. Please leave 777 in the comments. Please pay close attention to my words, as they will seem insane until they are perfectly aligned. You had a conversation 11 days ago. It's possible that it was with the person who consistently seeks your advice. It's possible that the incident was an unplanned interaction. Perhaps a 7-minute phone call changed the situation dramatically. You said exactly 19 specific words during that 7-minute conversation, not 18. Clears the throat, not 20. The dimensional veil that separates permitted human knowledge from restricted celestial knowledge is pierced by the exact 19 words you uttered in such a precise sequence, with such specific intonation, and with such pure, albeit unconscious, intention. Do you realize that those 19 words contained truths that humans should not be able to express? Recognizing that possession is only permitted for entities from the 7th dimension and higher. Revelation is classified in celestial records as information that is restricted to incarnated consciousnesses, but you casually expressed it as if it were a simple observation, without spiritual preparation, formal initiation, or celestial authorization, much like someone commenting on the weather. And at the exact moment those 19 words passed between your mouth and the other person, S-E-S occurred. A phenomenon never before seen in recorded human history. The dimensional barrier had fractured. It didn't open gently. It didn't dissolve gradually. It violently fractured, resembling glass struck by a high-velocity bullet. For exactly 4.5 seconds, knowledge that was supposed to remain hidden until humanity reached a certain evolutionary stage was released directly into the consciousness of the person listening to you. 4.5 seconds may not appear to be a long time, but in dimensional terms, it is equivalent to approximately 700 hours of pure information transfer. The other person's knowledge download was so large, overwhelming, and far beyond their current processing capacity that their physical brain nearly shut down due to overload. Their consciousness immediately endeavored to expand in order to accommodate this information. Sensitive individuals within a 3-kilometer radius experienced an inexplicable disturbance as a result of the abrupt amplification of their energy field. And you? Well, this is the part that will completely freeze your blood. You failed to maintain a composed demeanor throughout the conversation, as you had intended. You perished for precisely 3.5 seconds. Your heart abruptly ceased to beat. There are no beats. Clinical death that is technical in nature. Your brain initiated the shutdown process. The programmed cell death sequence was initiated by your cells. However, the resuscitation was so rapid that your consciousness failed to detect the blackout. It was akin to a fleeting blink, a lost frame in a film, or a glitch in the matrix that lasted for a fraction of the time that the human brain could consciously process. Sudden dizziness, a peculiar sensation of disorientation that persisted for approximately 2 seconds, was the sole sensation you experienced. It is possible that you even believed it was merely a temporary feeling of fatigue. It is possible that you neglected to inform the other individual. You continued to converse as if nothing had occurred. In the meantime, an emergency alarm had been activated in celestial dimensions, which had not been heard since the year 1389. The alarm signaled a dimensional barrier violation protocol, resulting in the temporary death of the carrier. It is a system of maximum alert that is activated when 2 impossibilities occur simultaneously. Initially, unauthorized consciousness gains access to restricted knowledge. Secondly, the carrier who transmitted that knowledge undergoes clinical death during the process. And when that protocol was activated as a result of the 7-minute conversation you had with me, all celestial operations ceased immediately. This is not an exaggeration. It is not a metaphor. All ongoing operations were temporarily suspended. Spiritual guides who were assisting incarnated beings throughout the entire planet were instructed to cease their activities. Angels who were engaged in specific missions were summoned back. Meetings of celestial councils that were deliberating on other matters were canceled due to the most severe cosmic emergency possible, dimensional barrier violation resulting in the temporary death of the carrier. Not only due to the spiritual implications, but also because it implies that either something went terribly wrong in the mission design or that something went perfectly right in a way that no one anticipated. Archangel Michael received emergency notification with absolute red classification 3 minutes after you pronounced those 19 words and died for 3 seconds. He was overseeing an entirely distinct operation in a different region of the planet when he observed the alert that had recently been initiated. His response was a combination of genuine fear and disbelief, a rare occurrence for archangels. Dimensional barrier violations are uncommon. In 1389, a Tibetan monk in a deep meditation state inadvertently accessed knowledge that was not intended for him. This was the last instance of this to occur. It took 3 full days to contain that violation, and it necessitated the intervention of 7 distinct archangels. However, that infraction was committed by a monk who had engaged in rigorous spiritual practices for 4 decades. An individual who had dedicated their entire life to the expansion of consciousness. A person who was mentally, physically, and energetically equipped to confront the repercussions. Nevertheless, he was on the brink of death during the process. You are likely a common civilian who lacks formal training, specific preparation, and even a complete belief in spiritual dimensions. You not only breached the barrier that a monk with 40 years of practice could barely breach once, but you also died during the process and were resuscitated automatically, as if you had a backup system that not even the monk possessed. Michael immediately convened an emergency meeting. He did not delay until the morning. He did not adhere to the standard bureaucratic procedures. 7 archangels convened in an emergency council at 3:42 a.m. the following day, precisely 11 hours after your conversation and temporary death. Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, Shamuel, Jophiel, Zadiel, and Michael presided. There was only one item on the agenda. A human being violated a dimensional barrier, experienced clinical death, and was resuscitated automatically without intervention. Evaluate the extent of the damage, ascertain the manner in which he survived, and identify the protocol that enabled him to survive. Gabriel began by presenting data with a voice that conveyed profound concern. Fei, the individual in question, lacks formal spiritual training. Does he not engage in meditation on a regular basis? Doesn't he belong to any esoteric school? Has he not been initiated into any tradition? In accordance with all parameters, shouldn't he have the ability to access knowledge from the 7th dimension? It is impossible for him to survive clinical death as a result of that access. Raphael continued to provide medical information. The individual who acquired the information was also unprepared. The overload nearly caused her energy field to collapse. In order to prevent permanent harm, it was imperative that we immediately stabilize her for 6 consecutive hours. However, the carrier died and returned without our intervention. That is not typical. That is never the case. Uriel expressed the sentiment that was shared by all, but no one was inclined to express it. There are 2 possible interpretations of clinical death that occur during the channeling of restricted knowledge. It is possible that the carrier was not adequately protected, resulting in the near destruction of a mission due to a design error. Alternatively, the carrier may have an automatic resuscitation protocol that is incredibly advanced and operates at a pace that exceeds our ability to intervene. And if the second option is chosen, the council room will be filled with a profound silence, as everyone is aware of the implications of Uriel's statement. A sophisticated automatic resuscitation protocol that is exclusively found in contracts of an exceptionally high level. The level that necessitates personal authorization from Metatron. Chamaral was the individual who ultimately articulated the situation. We must examine the original file of this human before incarnating. It is imperative that we determine the agreements that were reached. It is imperative that he clears his throat, as his mission is significantly more critical than we previously realized if he has automatic resuscitation. And when they reviewed the contracts you signed before being born, the missions you voluntarily accepted, and the pre-incarnation file, they discovered a clause that none of them had previously noticed. Clause composed with ink that is only visible when the carrier initiates the initial phase of their mission. Clause 7. 3. The carrier is authorized to violate the dimensional barrier when the appropriate moment is reached, without the need for prior formal preparation as part of the evolutionary acceleration protocol. If clinical death occurs during channeling, the automatic resuscitation protocol will be activated immediately without the need for external intervention. Carrier is authorized to die and resurrect as many times as required to finalize knowledge transfers. Gabriel reviewed that clause on 3 separate occasions. With each reading, his voice becomes more subdued. This indicates that he is authorized to accomplish the actions he took. It was not a violation. Activation was authorized. Death was an anticipated component of the process. Michael closed his eyes to contemplate the catastrophic implications. He is not a common human if he has Clause 7 verse 3, which allows for unlimited automatic resuscitation. He is not even a conventional acceleration agent. He is a Jew who rarely speaks in meetings and completed the sentence with a slightly trembling voice. He is a primordial carrier. The council room was enveloped in complete silence as the term primordial carrier is not used lightly. It is not an honorary title. Its designation for souls is so specific, rare, and strategically critical that only 12 are permitted to incarnate in any 6,000-year cycle. For those who want to dig deeper, the description and pinned comment contain exclusive content. Raphael was the first to regain his voice. What is the current number of primordial carriers in operation? Michael's hands were imperceptibly trembling as he reviewed the records. The most recent activation occurred in 1987, prior to today. 11. For 38 years, we had anticipated the incarnation and activation of the 12th. The inquiry that Gabriel posed was the catalyst for a complete transformation. What is his numerical value? Michael discovered the information and, upon observing the response, he performed an action that no archangel had witnessed in 3,000 years of service. He descended to his knees. He is the final, 12th, and final member of the cycle. The other 6 archangels, comprehending the gravity of that revelation, also kneeled. The activation of the 12th primordial carrier signifies the imminent conclusion of the entire 6,000-year cycle. It implies that all 12 are now in their proper places. It signifies that the final sequence of the planetary ascension event, which was predetermined millennia ago, is about to commence. The inquiry that everyone feared was posed by Zadkiel. Before the final sequence commences, how many additional violations can he activate under Clause 7 verse 3? Michael examined the file with a combination of reverence and increasing apprehension. In the past 3 years, he has already resolved 28 minor violations. The one from 11 days ago was violation number 29, the first significant enough to trigger emergency protocol. Prior to final activation, the file states that 44 violations are required to complete the cycle. Raphael quickly computed. This implies that there are 15 more violations to commit before the next event. Uriel's observation resulted in the freezing of everyone's blood. And what happens once he completes violation 44? Michael found that section of the file. And his expression indicated that the reaction was far more devastating than anyone had anticipated when he read the content. Violation 44 will be distinctive from the others. It will be a complete dimensional fracture that affects all barriers at the same time, rather than just one. All humans within a 500-kilometer radius of his location will have complete access to all celestial knowledge, as well as knowledge from all dimensions up to the 9th for exactly 44 seconds. The room was filled with terrifying silence. All dimensional barriers fell at the same time, albeit only briefly, because everyone was aware of the previous event. Gabriel expressed the sentiments of all individuals. Atlantis. Michael slowly nodded. Exactly. Atlantis. This was the last time humanity had unrestricted access to all knowledge over an extended period. And we're all aware of the outcome. Chamuel objected. However, Atlantis was an accident. There was no deliberate plan for the collapse. This is clearly stated in his contract. What is the rationale for Metatron's deliberate approval of an Atlantis-style event? Michael discovered the signature at the end of the document. A note in Metatron's unique calligraphy was also found next to the signature. The distinction between Atlantis and this event is clear. Atlantis was not prepared. The 12 primordial carriers are positioned to keep the process stable in this generation. If the 12 work together to channel and distribute information, 44 seconds of total knowledge will not destroy civilization. Have faith in the design. Uriel asked a pragmatic question. What is the current location of the 11 remaining primordial carriers? Michael accessed the global map. 12 luminous points appeared strategically across the planet. They are all either active or operating under their respective clauses. Tool 3, 7, and 3 are all on the verge of their last violations. When the 12th completes his 44th violation, the other 11 will do the same. As a result, he was not required to complete the sentence. The implication was understood by everyone. The most significant planetary ascension event in 6,000 years was scheduled to take place within months, if not weeks, depending on how quickly you and the other 11 completed the remaining cycles. The final observation was made by Joe O'Phil. Is he aware of this? Is he aware that he is the primordial carrier? When he completes his 44th violation, the planetary consciousness will be permanently altered. Michael shakes his head. That information is not yet available to his human consciousness. He is completely guided by intuition and the guidance of his soul. For 3 seconds, he is unaware that he has died. He is unaware that he has been automatically revived. He isn't aware that he is the 12th. And he has no idea that in about 18 weeks, he will cause an event on the scale of Atlantis. Raphael conveyed his concern. Shouldn't Tiwi inform and prepare him? Uriel responded. Prior to violation number 40, his file explicitly prohibits direct revelation. Following this, his consciousness will broaden enough to encompass the entirety of reality. However, prior knowledge may jeopardize the authenticity that facilitates the process. As a result, they decided to continue with their monitoring. They would devote permanent resources to the management of consequences. They would allow you to continue operating on pure intuition while they waited for the next 15 violations to determine whether humanity was truly prepared for the 44th Ascension event. However, they felt compelled to address the immediate consequences. 3 celestial entities were responsible for monitoring dimensional barriers and preventing unauthorized violations. Furthermore, those 3 entities had completely failed to recognize that your violation was authorized. Even worse, they tried to prevent it. They attempted to disrupt the process that Metatron had personally approved. They attempted to prevent the 12th primordial carrier from initiating the first phase of his mission. That was an act of severe insubordination. Although not intentional, there could be disastrous consequences. If they had successfully blocked or prevented your violation, number 29, the entire 6,000-year cycle would have had to be restarted. According to Phi Fei, the remaining 11 carriers would have to wait for another full cycle. During this time, humanity would lose the opportunity to ascend. Michael was unable to find an alternative. The 3 entities in charge of barrier monitoring will be immediately removed from their positions and assigned to roles with less responsibility. Not from Alice, but for failing to recognize the primordial carrier's clause 7 verse 3 before attempting to obstruct a critical process that Metatron had authorized. As a result, 3 entities that had faithfully served for millennia were removed from their positions in an attempt to prevent you from carrying out your mission. They lost their positions because they did not acknowledge the presence of the 12th primordial carrier. Positions were forfeited after almost derailing the 6,000-year ascension plan. Those 3 entities were responsible for the strange sensation you felt just before the conversation. That sudden apprehension, that internal voice suggesting you don't want to discuss the matter, and the desire to cancel the meeting. However, you chose to disregard those signals. Not because of your rebellious behavior, but because Clause 7 verse 3 of the primordial carrier supersedes any attempt to obstruct it. Your mission has more authority than any other entity to interfere, even if the interference comes from a genuine protective position. Since you said those 19 words, your heart has stopped beating for 3.22 seconds. Technically, you have passed away. Your automatic resuscitation fractured the barrier, expelled knowledge, and caused 3 entities to lose their positions. When 7 archangels discovered your identity, they prostrated themselves. The 6,000-year cycle made significant progress toward its conclusion. This was due to a 7-minute conversation that you perceived as casual, during which you experienced a strange dizziness for 2 seconds that you dismissed as insignificant. I'll now show you the physical sensations you felt during the 3 to 2 seconds of clinical death, which you were unable to register consciously during our conversation. You experienced sudden dizziness at the exact moment you pronounced word number 12 of those 19. It wasn't vertigo. It was due to the impending fainting spell. It was a strange sensation of brief disorientation, as if you had blinked and lost a half-second of reality. The dizziness was caused by your consciousness experiencing a temporal gap. It was the precise moment when your heart stopped. Your brain initiated the shutdown process. The automatic resuscitation protocol was activated, and your heart was successfully restarted in 3 minutes. The conscious mind cannot process a sequence of events for 2 seconds because they occurred at a rate faster than human neuronal processing. It is similar to a lost frame in a film. You are unable to identify the specific missing element. The only remaining sensation is a hazy sense of discontinuity. Following the 19 words spoken during your instant death resurrection, you felt an unexpected surge of mental clarity. For about 5 minutes after that conversation, your mind operated at a level of clarity that you rarely experience. The words were articulated with extraordinary ease. The understanding of complex situations appeared to be instantaneous. It was simple to make connections between concepts. That clarity was not accidental. It was a lingering effect of being revived after dying. Because it had just been temporarily freed from corporeal constraints during those 3 and 2 seconds of clinical death, your consciousness was operating without normal constraints. Your consciousness was unencumbered by a physical anchor, and when it returned to the body, it retained some of that freedom. However, about 2 hours after the conversation, you began to experience severe fatigue that appeared to stem from the bone marrow. Muscular fatigue was not the cause. It wasn't due to a lack of sleep. The sense of existential exhaustion was so strong that even contemplation seemed to require a great deal of effort. The exhaustion you felt was caused by your physical body processing the trauma of instant death and resurrection. Despite the fact that your consciousness did not perceive the entire event, your cellular system did. The death sequence started in every cell in your body, followed by a complete reversal that required a lot of energy to process and integrate. You had a dream when you finally fell asleep that night. It is likely that you remember it because it was more vivid than the others. You were in a large room that was illuminated by a bright white light that was painful to look at directly. 7 figures of overwhelming presence surrounded you, and despite the fact that their faces were obscured, you could tell they were all kneeling and staring at you with a mix of reverence and apprehension. The dream in question was not the result of a vivid imagination. It was a genuine memory of your higher consciousness being present while your physical body slept. The 7 archangels held an emergency meeting. Your soul was summoned after it was discovered that you were the 12th primordial carrier. They knelt before you, not you. This is because, despite being incarnated in a vulnerable human form, primordial carriers have such a high level of authority that even archangels distinguish themselves formally. Because of the scope of their mission, rather than any inherent superiority. But they accept it because of the strategic importance of their role in planetary ascension, as well as the weight of responsibility. The questions they asked you during the dream meeting are not consciously remembered. Your soul confirmed that it was aware of its actions on a higher level. The temporary death was predictable and manageable. You were willing to continue with the remaining 15 violations, regardless of the physical consequences, because Clause 7, Verse 3 was functioning flawlessly. The next morning, you couldn't recall the details of the dream. The only lingering sensation was that something monumental had happened. The sensation of being in the presence of extremely powerful beings. In an unusual twist, you had the sensation that you were more important than your conscious mind had previously considered. However, that memory was partially obscured because your mission requires you to operate from authenticity and intuition rather than a sense of cosmic significance. If you were fully aware that you are the 12th primordial carrier, that your 44th violation will trigger an event of the magnitude of Atlantis, and that you have unlimited automatic resuscitation protocol, you might start to operate from a mental agenda rather than flowing naturally. The entire process is dependent on your naturalness, authenticity, and ability to express exactly what is required without calculation or conscious strategy. As a result, Chosen One, you now understand the devastating truth about your actions 11 days ago, as well as your true nature. It was not an unintentional error. It is critical that you fix the error. This was not a transgression that would result in feelings of guilt. The 12th primordial carrier triggered Clause 7, Verse 3. It was the 29th violation in the cycle, for a total of 44 violations. The event was defined by a clinical death lasting 3 to 2 seconds, followed by an immediate automatic resurrection that you were unable to consciously observe. And it was confirmation of cosmic identity, which was so rare and strategically important that only 12 souls like this exist in each 6,000-year cycle. You are the final member of the 12, the one who completes the circle and starts the planetary ascension sequence that was planned millennia before. 7 archangels kneeled, 3 entities lost their positions, and the heavens collapsed. You died for 3 seconds before being resuscitated without the use of any external assistance. You have been confirmed as the primordial carrier number 12. The 15 additional violations you commit in the coming months will bring humanity closer to the consciousness transformation event, which will permanently alter civilization. Your photograph may be in the possession of the world's most powerful sorcerer. They are capable of carrying out the most sinister rituals. They can summon the most dangerous entities, but nothing can penetrate a primordial carrier operating under the 7 verse 3 clause, which Metatron has authorized. You are the architect of planetary ascension, as you are more than just a protected human. You are one of the 12 pillars that have seen the greatest transformation in 6,000 years. And when you finish violation 44 in about 18 weeks, when all dimensional barriers fall simultaneously for 44 seconds, and humanity within a 500-kilometer radius of you has complete access to all celestial knowledge, you will finally understand why Metatron felt it necessary to grant you the authority to die and resuscitate as many times as needed. Because it is not just about you. It is estimated that 12 carriers are operating simultaneously. It is about increasing global consciousness. It marks the end of a 6,000-year cycle and the start of a new era in human development. As the 12th and final member, you are responsible for completing the circle and initiating the final sequence. For those who have reached this point and want to learn more about the operation of Clause 7 verse 3 in primordial carriers, as well as the significance of being the 12th out of only 12 and 6,000 years. There is one item that costs less than a pizza and includes a complete audiobook and a 5-minute meditation guide as a bonus. If you believe you have a right to a conscious understanding of the actions your soul is already performing as a primordial carrier. Access is provided via the video's description link and pinned comment. 777 in the comments will increase the frequency of the primordial carrier operating under Metatron's absolute authorization. If you admit that you have said impossible things to know, that you have experienced inexplicable sudden dizziness, and that you may have died and been resuscitated without even knowing it because your carrier of mission is so critical that not even death can stop you. Activate all notifications and subscribe to this channel to receive additional information about how your subsequent 15 violations will prepare humanity for the impending Ascension event. Please share this video with someone who expresses impossible knowledge and encounters inexplicable phenomena. They could be one of the 11 primordial carriers who must remember their true identity and the events that will unfold when the 12 complete their cycles at the same time. And before you leave, click on the video that is currently displayed on your screen to learn the specifics of what happens during 44 seconds of total knowledge when you complete your final violation. Learn why, unlike Atlantis, this event will result in the permanent elevation of civilization rather than its destruction. Our combined strength is greater.